So I fired my therapist today, but that bitch had it coming. So story time. Last October, me and my little situationship weren't doing too good. And I felt like the reason why things weren't going well was because of me. So I had the idea of going to therapy to work on myself, thinking it would help the situationship turn into something more, something healthier. That shit didn't end up working. More on that later. But anywho, I was in the process of looking for a therapist that could help me and really like change my life. So I went through my insurance and I was just looking through all the therapists that they had available, and I was checking them on Psychology Today, looking at their photos, because I was looking for a black woman. You know, I want somebody who can relate to me and like really understands me. And I was looking at everything that they like were specializing in, and I was really looking for somebody who specialized in CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy, because I felt like that would be like the most helpful. What I understand from CBT is that it's basically they really help you get to the root of your issues and like basically help heal that root, so whatever loop of like behaviors that you have are like improved. You can Google it. It's CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. So I found this therapist, I called her, I set an appointment, boo out the band. We have our first session. I wasn't really feeling her. I didn't really feel like our energies really like aligned. But I had talked to my cousin about it, and she's older, and she was telling me just to give her like a chance, just fill it out a little bit more, don't rule her off. So I was like, okay. So I gave her a couple sessions, and I still didn't feel like we were in alignment, but I liked that she was able to help me with like my confidence, my self-esteem, my self-talk, and how I view myself and my friendships and relationships. So I like that. So I continued to go, even though like we didn't necessarily like mesh like energy wise, because I have a pretty like upbeat, bubbly personality, and she's just very more like, like chill and just a little dry, a little dry. But there was trouble in paradise, because after like a couple months, I noticed we met once a week, but every time we would meet, she would come into the session late. So first it started off as being like 5 minutes late. Then she was like 10 minutes late, and like consistently like 10 or a little over 10 minutes late. And our sessions will always end, like the sessions were like an hour. So if we started at 8 a.m., the sessions were supposed to end at like 9. Our sessions would end at like 8:45 or like 8:50. And I'm like, whoa, I'm not even getting my full time. I'm basically getting like 40 minutes of therapy time. And I'm just like, no, I need all of my time. So because of our sessions, I was able to feel confident enough to speak up for myself, but respectfully, not with an attitude or like a negative tone of like entitlement, but just this voice my concern. So I respectfully told her like, hey, I've noticed that you've been coming into our sessions late. And remember, we're meeting over Zoom, because ever since COVID, nothing is like in office anymore. It's all over Zoom. So like I've noticed that our sessions are starting late and we're ending early. So I really would like to continue working with you. But if another time would work or another day would work, that's totally fine for me. Or if I need to find another therapist because, we're no longer matching, like, that's fine too. So she let me know like, hey, I do have a session with a couple, right before you. So I guess at 7:00 she meets with a couple, and she be like, yeah, they usually try to ask me questions, at the end of our session, and it kind of runs over. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why don't you cut them off like you cut me off? Like we ended early and we starting late. Why you can't cut them off early like you do me? I don't get that. So after I spoke about that, we had an understanding. She was very grateful for me that I voiced my, concerns to her. And, for a little while, she started coming in on time, maybe a minute too off, but she was on time. And of course, there was like one instance where I actually woke up late and I got into the session like 20 minutes late, but that only happened like one time. I just feel like, dang, if I never would have spoke up, I probably never would have overslept. But it's like, of course, when I speak up about something, I end up doing the thing that I'm speaking up about. What? So that was kind of like strike one, or like kind of like a red flag, because I'm like, if you've been doing therapy for about 10 years, I would think that punctuality would be like second nature to you, especially when it it's on Zoom. Like, it's not like we have to meet each other in the office. You have to go through traffic. Strike 2 was, okay, I'm gonna be for real. I'm gonna be transparent with y'all. I do hair. You know, I specialize in dreadlocks and natural braids, like cornrows and 2-strand twists. January and December were so slow for me, and it was so slow. I was behind on like 2 therapy payments, like for our sessions, because I pay after each session. So after the second session, I didn't have it, and I didn't realize that they couldn't take it out of my account. So I asked her, I was like, hey, can we like skip this week? So this was like the 3rd week I had reached out to her. No, yeah, the 2nd week, I was like, hey, can we skip next week? You know, just until like, you know, I get a little bit more flow, because this month is kind of slow for me. So she agreed. And then I had paid the 2 sessions up that I had owed, and I had rescheduled for the next week. So the week that I asked her to skip, I ended up paying it up and then rescheduling it for that week. So I was like, okay, cool, we back in the game. Then she cancels that session, and then she cancels all of our other sessions, like all of the ones in the future. So I reached out to her via email. I'm like, hey, like, I see that you canceled all of our sessions. Like, do you not want to work with me any longer? Like, what's going on? And she was like, oh, well, you haven't paid, so I didn't know, you know, if you still wanted to have sessions with me. The cancellation fee is like much higher than the regular session, so I just didn't want to overwhelm you. And I was like, but I'm paid up, so why are you canceling my sessions? Like, if I rescheduled with you, why would you assume that I had not paid up until that point? That makes no sense. So she was like, oh, okay, I didn't know. So I guess whatever system she's using, they let her know when I didn't pay, but they did not inform her of when I paid. Or maybe she didn't look. I don't know. But I think the fact that she just canceled all of our sessions without reaching out to me or following up or anything was strike 2. So I was like, okay, cool. We a little rocky now, but it's cool. The 3rd and final strike was when she would reach out to me and try to reschedule our sessions at the last minute. So the first time that she did this, it was an hour before our session. And mind you, our sessions start at 8 a.m. in the morning. So she reached out to me at 7 something, like, hey, Christina, I had an emergency with a client. Do you mind if we move our session back to 9 o'clock? And I said yes, but I had my day planned out already, because I'm fortunate enough to make my own schedule. So I had planned my whole day, and I planned my whole entire work week around my therapy session. So I had planned to go to therapy, go to the gym, do my little 2 a day, and then go to work. And for whatever reason, by us moving that back an hour, it threw off my gym schedule. So I didn't make it to the gym, and I ended up getting to work late. So that was on me, but like my whole schedule was just like messed up. So I told myself I would not, you know, reschedule or push back a therapy session again, because it just throws the rest of my day off. So then like 2 weeks later, she hits me up the day before, not even a full 24 hours. And she's like, hey, Christina, I want to go to a meeting tomorrow. Do you mind if we move our session to Friday at 9? If so, thank you so much for being flexible. That was the end of the message. Basically her affirming that we were going to move it to 9 on Friday. So I told her, you know, I cannot accommodate Friday at 9 o'clock. You know, I got clients that day. I can't do that. So I assumed that we would not have the meeting, because she said she wanted to do something else. So then she reaches out to me and she's like, hey, I'm in the meeting, and I didn't see this because I'm asleep, because I'm like, oh, we're not having a session today. She was in the session and did not follow up with me and let me know that we were still going at our regular time. So I still get charged for the session, and I'm like, how am I getting charged? And like it was so much miscommunication. I'm just like, it would have been better if she'd been like, okay, well, if you can't make Friday, you know, our session will continue as normal. But she didn't say anything at all. So after I got charged, I was like, you know what? I wasn't already feeling the vibes. I have been thinking about getting a different therapist. She did help me work through that situation, but I had to let her go. And before I let her go, you know, I looked for another therapist, got on their schedule, and then I sent her a message of closure to thank her for her time. But I just let her know it just wasn't a good fit. And it's okay that it's not a good fit. She's a great therapist. She really helped me get through that storm. But for this next chapter, I need something different, and I'm okay with that. So yeah, that's my story time on how I fired my therapist. Let me know if you guys want a part 2, and if you want an update on what ended up happening between me and my situationship after therapy started working.